All right, folks, Yishai Fleisher here. I'm on a canoe. No, I'm really on a canoe. You see that? I'm on a canoe in Oklahoma, Baruch Hashem, on a beautiful lake. And while here, I'm still thinking about the Holy Land and thinking about how to make the Abrahamic region, the Middle East region, safer and better. It certainly is not going to be through the lies and the ridiculous calcified notions of giving away the land of Israel, shrinking it, and giving it to the enemies, and somehow achieving peace through that. That is not going to happen. What is going to happen, hopefully, is some of the ideas that you're going to see in the following video from the folks at Israel Update, the Israel Update, with my very good friends and really mentors, Dr. Mordechai, Kedar, and Dr. Michael Doran, people who I hold in great esteem. And the reason I hold them in great esteem is because they're actually thinking about a better future. They believe that a better policy future could actually bring more salvation, more prosperity, more normalcy, more education, more decency, more opportunity for regular good life, which the good Lord has given us the opportunity to enable. So check out these two dear men who are thinking about a better future, and with their kind of thoughts, indeed, it will be able to be achieved. Let's check out Dr. Michael Doran and Dr. Mordechai Kedar on the Israel Update. Here we go.
But let's talk about two things I want to get to. One is your definition of victory in this war. When can Israel declare victory? What does that look like? So, in other words, what remains to be done? And then we really want to get to your emirates plan and the future of Gaza and the future of Palestinian-Israeli relations. I think that's that's the most important thing we have to get to today. But let's start though with in terms of the war. What do you see as remaining? What's the remaining steps that Israel needs to take?
Well, since we are one culture, means Western culture, while our neighbors are Eastern culture, Arab culture, Islamic culture, there is no way to compare the definitions of victory and defeat in the two countries. In our culture, means Western culture, if you succeed to defeat the enemy's army, to destroy its communications, to destroy its headquarters, to destroy some part of his fighting power, you defeated it, because without commandment, without communications, a modern army cannot function. And you can force on them whatever you like. Here, when it comes to the Middle East, what Iran did is build militias, not armies. What's the difference? Militias are not bound by the international law. They can do whatever they like. They can rape, they can behead people, they can burn babies, they can do whatever they like, because the international law of war is not applied on militias. It's applied only on states, like Israel. So they can continue to do to us whatever they did until today. And this is the problem. And I already, from the beginning of the war, said that if one fighter of Hezbollah, of Hamas, will remain with one leg missing, with one hand missing, and the other hand, I has only two fingers, he will stand on a roof of a destroyed mosque. He will make V with his two last fingers, and he won. Won?
I remember you saying that now. I forgot about it. You said this right after the war began. Right.
Because this is the definition of victory. Why? Because this man, he will bring children to the world, and his children will continue his jihad, and their children will continue the jihad, and they won. Because the jihad will continue. And this is the problem between what we believe and what we act, and according to which, look, Western culture wants to make part between the fighting forces and the civilians. You're not supposed to hurt civilians who are not involved in the war, neither on your side nor in the other side. This is the rule, the basic rule, which was accepted many, many years ago in the Western world. Here in the Middle East, it's totally different. The motto of the soldier is she is supposed to suffer, just like the soldier, the grandmother, the son, the daughter, everybody, because they are the civil background of the soldier. So if you destroy them, you destroy the soldier as well, at least mentally. So this is why they don't make any difference between fighters in uniform and babies, because the babies will grow up to be fighters. And this is why their fight against us, they fight against us a war which we do not allow ourselves to do the same thing. And this is the problem. Look, I'll give you a good example. Hezbollah, when they attacked the ISIS in Syria between 2015 and 18, they put a siege on two at least villages in Syria where ISIS were hiding. Their name was Fu'a and Madayan. So what did Hezbollah do? They put a siege. They did not let them in, not food, not water, no nothing. And until the last one died of hunger. Where was the world about hunger? And this is how Hezbollah is doing it. And it's okay from their own point of view, because this is the way how to wage a war in this area by Arabs and Muslims. This is a tradition. So for them, it's okay if you put a siege. We cannot allow ourselves because we are part of the Western world. And this is why we have to feed them and to drench them and to give them electricity and oil and whatever they need, in spite of the fact that we are fighting against them. So this is the difference between cultures, and there are many more differences which make also the problem of victory and defeat very hard to define, because the definitions are totally different. Now, because Israel was forced to release Hamas fighters, Hamas killers from the Israeli from the Israeli prisons, many of them came back to their homes in Judea and Samaria. Now, there are three forces, or three powers, three centers of power in Judea and Samaria. One is the PA, which represents the PLO, the modernist nationalist movement of the Palestinians. The Hamas, which represents the Islamists, which are against the nationalists, because the Hamas against the PLO. And they want to turn the Palestinian Authority to a Hamas state. And the traditional power, the clans, which those who live in the West are not aware of, because here in the Middle East, the clan system is not only alive and kicking, it is alive and killing when needed. Because this is the culture of the Middle East. The clan system still works, and it works very well in the Emirates, because these are the basis of the Emirates. You know, Dubai belongs to one clan named Al Maktoum. The Kuwait belongs to a clan named Al Sabah, and Abu Dhabi belongs to a clan named Al Nahyan, and so forth. When you establish a state on a clan, it's a good state. If you establish a state on modern ideas like nationalism, socialism, you get the atrocities like Syria, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, and all these failing states. So now Macron, the genius, wants to establish a Palestinian state, to recognize the Palestinian state. Who is afraid? Not only Israel, the clans, because they are afraid that if there is a Palestinian state, Hamas will take it over, either by elections, as already happened in January 2006, or by coup d'etat, as Hamas did in Gaza in June 2007. Means that a Palestinian state will inevitably turn into a Hamastan, either by elections, as already happened, or by coup d'etat, as already happened. Means that they will only find themselves in a situation like Gaza, because Hamas will do what Hamas knows how to do, means to attack Israel. It will take some time until they recuperate, but they definitely will do, because this is the DNA of Hamas. So the clan started to worry about being subjugated to a Palestinian state, which will turn very quickly into a Hamastan. So they took out from the closet something which I'm talking about for at least 25 years, the Palestinian emirate solution, which means to establish an emirate in Hebron, on the basis of the clans of Hebron. Another emirate in Jericho, based on the clan which controls Jericho, which is the Arikat. Another emirate in Nablus, Shem, which will be based on the 3 clans of Nablus, Masri, Tukan, and Shaka. Another emirate in Tulkarem, based on the clan of Tulkarem, is the Karmis, and in Kalkilia one, in Jenin, and lastly in Ramallah, for the Barghoutis. And this is the only thing which works well in the Middle East. Clan-based states. They don't have to be big, but they have to be homogeneous. And this is what turned all the heterogeneous states like Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, Sudan, Libya, to atrocities, because heterogeneous state in the Middle East becomes an atrocity. They have many.
When you say when you say heterogeneous, you're talking about many different clans or different ethnic groups, different religious groups. What do you mean?
For excess of division, the ethnic division, Arabs, Turkmens, Kurds, Berbers in North Africa, the clans, they are sharply divided into clans. Iraq has 76 clans, the whole population. Religions. Look, in Syria there are 4 religions: Muslims, Christians, Druze, and Alawis. Okay, and they are fighting each other for generations, millennia. Okay, in Iraq we have 10 religions only in Iraq. Muslim, and I ignore the Jews who ran away from there. And Muslims, Christians, Yazidis, Slabais, Mandays, Zoroastrians, Shubaks, Ka'is, and Druze, and Alawites who ran away from Syria. Altogether, some 10 religions, only in Iraq. And who knows how many sects, because this is the subdivision of the religion. And the modern state, like Iraq, Syria, failed in its first mission to replace the traditional or the traditional loyalties to the loyalty to the state. Therefore, there was no Iraqi nation. There are Iraqi citizens, but not a nation. They are highly divided. This is why they fight each other. There is no Syrian nation. Read my doctorate about Syria. This is the biggest failure of the Assad regime, both father and son, to create an awareness of unity in Syria. And the result is what you see today. There is no nation in Yemen, no nation in Sudan, in Libya, in Algeria, all these failing states. The state failed to settle in the hearts of the people and replace the traditional loyalties to the ethnic group, to the clan, to the religion, and to the sect. And this is why the state is viewed as the enemy in these failing states. And therefore they became dictatorships everywhere in these countries. While in the Gulf, there are stable states, normal states, legitimate states, legitimate regimes, no, legitimate leaderships, because they are from us, because everyone is homogeneous unit, and it's quite like a nation state of Al-Sabah, the name of the clan which owns Kuwait. Dubai is like nation state of Al Maktoum. Okay, that's why these countries in the Gulf are legitimate, not because of the oil, because of the stability. Because Dubai, for example, has no oil at all, and Dubai is heaven on earth without oil, while Iraq, Libya are hell on earth, in spite of the hell of a lot of oil which they have, hell of a lot of oil. The oil doesn't help in this case. the stability, the homogeneity of the population. This is what brings stability and prosperity and peace. And this is why I suggested this solution. Already 25 years. The Israelis, unfortunately, did not understand it. They didn't understand the essence of this issue. And now, since it came from within Hebron, by some sheikhs who understood where they are walking to, now the Israeli government started to discuss. There is
So just for I think most of our viewers have probably heard about this letter that the Jabari clan in Wadi al-Jabari sent to near Barkat. But why don't you just tell us quickly what happened in Hebron in the last few months?
What happened is actually the whole thing was exposed to the media by an article which was published by Elliot Kaufman on the Wall Street Journal on July 6th, about a month ago. And ever since then, there was a whole upheaval in Judea and Samaria between those who support it, who are against the PA, and the PA. Now, the PA, don't forget, still has a presence on the ground.
But let's describe the letter that was sent and the idea.
They mean the sheikhs who are willing to establish an emirate wrote a letter to Nir Barkat in which they said that they are willing to establish an emirate in Hebron and to join the Abrahamic Accords, to have peaceful relations, normalization with Israel, and join the Abrahamic Accords. And they recognize Israel as a Jewish state, something which even Egypt didn't do, and let alone Jordan, and of course the Palestinians. They have no problem to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. Happens that all the Israeli right side of the map supports it. The Likud supports it. The people who live, the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria support it. Many of the Israeli right support this idea of emirates. We have nothing to do in Hebron itself. And of course, even the Jewish community which lives in Hebron has no problem with this claim because they are friends of these sheikhs who are very peaceful people.
So
this is why
when I read Elliot Kaufman's article, the first thing I thought about was you. Of course, this has been your idea for years. Did anyone consult you in with this, or did this happen without any reference to it?
I must say, Nir Barkat is already promoting this idea for years. For years.
Nir Barkat, minister in the government,
and the minister of Cardozo.
And former mayor of Jerusalem.
Yes. He is trying to promote this idea for years already, especially to sell it to the Americans. Because Americans always look for solutions which can work. And this can work because we are actually emulating the emirate paradigm in the Gulf rather than following the failing paradigm of Syria and Iraq with the nation state as the PLO ones. And don't forget that if we talk about whether the Palestinian state will be peaceful or not based on the PLO, look at this. This is the map which the PLO shows, and this is the map of the PLO. And this is the map of Palestine.
Yeah.
From the river to the sea. So where is Israel? According to our counterparts in the PA. And unfortunately, and not only this, they also pay for slave. Means they pay big part of their budget to killers who killed Jews only because they killed Jews. Or their families if they are not alive. Okay? This is insane. that the state of Israel still resuscitates this failing PA instead of diverting its activity to the clans and to establish the emirates. But unfortunately, the government, since it's too preoccupied in Gaza, in Syria, with the Druze, with many, many other things, they don't have even the time to discuss this opportunity for peace, to broaden the Abraham Accords with the Palestinian Emirates, which will be in Judea and Samaria. How, according to my plan, the cities will be emirates, while the rural areas will be all annexed to Israel, and Israel will offer Israeli citizenship to the villagers.
And what does your plan say about Gaza in particular?
Gaza could have been part of this plan until the war. Because Gaza, I don't know if you know, Gaza was divided to 5 administrative districts. Betlaya, Beit Hanun in the north, Gaza the city, Deir el-Balach, Beit Hanun, and Rafah. These were the 5 administrative divisions of Gaza. We could divide Gaza according to these lines, because these lines also took in account the clans in each and every district of Gaza. As long as the population were in Gaza living in their places, you could maybe do something like this in Gaza. However, since the war erupted, like at least half, if not more, of the population in Gaza ran away from their houses, dispersed all over the place, and now they are living and trying to survive as individuals or as nuclear families, not as clans, because the clans were shattered to pieces. So today, to talk about a clan system in Gaza, it's something which is almost totally irrelevant. It might be relevant in the parts of Gaza which are still intact, and there are many of those because of the hostages. So, Gaza, I really don't know what can be the solution. In my humble view, and I published it more than a year ago, the solution to Gaza should be Qatar. All the Gazans should move to Qatar. Qatar has a lot of... I'm not making a joke.
Yeah, still find it amusing, because I think it's going to be very hard to get anyone to agree to this, but yeah.
Not at all. The Qatari Airlines has, as much as I remember, 269 airliners, means airplanes. Average capacity around 350 passengers. Easily, they can do it within a week from the Egyptian air base or airport in El Arish, which is like 50 kilometers from Gaza. Believe me, if the Gazans know that in the end of the way they are in Qatar, they will run to El Arish if they don't find buses.
I just think the last thing that the Qataris want is, 2 million Gazans in Qatar.
Qatar actually is the mother of the problem in Gaza. Qatar backed Hamas many years in politics, in media and everything. Qatar sponsored Hamas for years with many billions, much more than what Israel allowed them to give for the above the surface. They give it from under the surface as well. Qatar actually is behind Hamas until this very day. And I think that the civilized world should have said to Qatar, either you take those Gazans and sell them in the dormitories which you built for the World Cup games which you hosted in 2022. And they can host in these dormitories either all of the Gazans or the vast majority of the Gazans. And they have hotels as well. And believe me, they can do it. And they can bring them. And they can do whatever they like. Why? Because Qatar has no restriction of money. And this is why the world should have told the Qataris, either you take those poor Gazans to your place, or we disconnect you from the SWIFT system.
Yeah.
Means you will not be able to sell gas, oil, or whatever you have. And especially cats.
So
This what convinced the Qataris that their game is over. All over the world.
this brings me to I think the thing that has always given me reservations about your plan, and that is the lack of international legitimacy. We're seeing today, we're taping this on August 11th. As you mentioned before, Macron is moving, and France is moving toward recognition of a Palestinian state. Today, I woke up to news that Australia is on the verge of recognizing a Palestinian state. So the more we see that the Oslo framework doesn't work, the more you see elements of the Western world organizing to prop it back up again. And of course, they have influence inside Israel as well. A large chunk of the Israeli establishment is still wedded in one way or another to the Oslo framework. How do you answer that criticism? That the criticism of your plan that it's just not viable given the state of opinion in the Western world?
No. Israel should go forward with the emirate plan, regardless of what the French look. If the French want to establish a Palestinian state, let it be in Marseille. They have enough Arabs and also Palestinians in Marseille. They can have a flourishing Palestinian state on their soil. Where's the problem? Between you and me, East London is already an Arab state. Let them call it Palestine. Molenbeek in Belgium, and there are many enclaves of Islamic migration in Western Europe. After all, they gave up on their countries. So why should we pay the price of their problems? And I want you to know, but this idea to recognize a Palestinian state by Macron was actually initiated by the domestic security organization in France, which came out with a report about the danger of the Muslim Brotherhood in France like 3 months ago. And they ended this report by claiming, or by saying, the authors of this report, that we, French, must appease those Islamists. And one of the ways how to appease them is to recognize a Palestinian state.
Okay.
And it is stated, this is what they write.
Right.
It means Israel has to pay the price of the fact that France failed to keep its own culture.
We've only got a few minutes left. Let me take you, because you are an expert on Arab culture and politics writ large. One of the things that I think I have noticed in the last few months especially is a kind of hardening of the Saudi position against recognition of Israel. And the Saudis are aligned with Macron, probably backing it, backing him in a number of ways, that even some we probably don't know about. And they are insisting that there has to be an irreversible pathway to a two-state solution before we can have normalization with Israel. It looks to me like there's a kind of great irony here in that Israel severely diminished the Saudis' biggest enemy, Iran. And as a result of diminishing the threat to Saudi Arabia from Iran, the Saudis feel less of a compulsion or less of a necessity of making better relations with Israel, which they needed against Iran. Is that your reading, or do you see it differently?
Look, the Saudis, don't forget, as much as they should be praised as the leader of the Islamic world, holding the two holy places, Mecca and Medina, and so forth. From the military point of view, Saudi Arabia is a weak country, very weak country. Just remember what happened to Saudi Arabia at 4 o'clock in the morning of September 14, 2019, when the Iranians attacked two major facilities of oil export in Saudi Arabia with drones, with missiles, one in a place named Abqeq and the other one in a place named Khorais, and actually paralyzed some 50% of the Saudi ability to export oil for months. Big damage. And the Iranian and the Saudis did nothing. In January 2020, the United States under Trump got rid of Soleimani, who engineered this attack. But Saudi Arabia as a state did not retaliate. Why? Because Saudi Arabia is weak. They are afraid of the Iranians, they are afraid of the Houthis, they are afraid of the militias which once were in Iran. In my humble view, today what pushes the Saudis to question Israel about the Palestinian state is exactly this, the Iranians. Although the Iranians were hit by Israel, although the Iranians are exposed from the air point of view, they can launch a lot of missiles, short-range missiles, in order to destroy the Saudi oil production facilities, which are all exposed on the ground, waiting, from the Iranian point of view, waiting to the Iranian missiles to attack them. And in my humble view, this is what the Iranians said. Now, since the Iranians want to take revenge from Israel, they want a Palestinian state which will turn into a Hamas state, which will be in good relations with Iran, if not also a mutual defense treaty between the Palestinian state and Iran, under Hamas, of course. And in that case, Saudi Arabia now is serving the Iranians by demanding a Palestinian state, which will inevitably turn into a Hamas state under the hegemony of Iran.
We have about 2 minutes left, and then I'm going to have to go. Why don't you just give us your understanding of the relations among Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey with respect to this question? It seems like they're all kind of in competition now with each other over the two-state solution question.
It's not only a competition; it's a matter of hatred. There is a big hatred between Saudi Arabia and Turkey. The reason is the way both sides interpret Islam. In Saudi Arabia, Islam is part of the state. Islam and state are intertwined. The families of the scholars are supporting the state, and the state actually, and the scholars, Al-Athimin, Al-Sheikh and Ibn Baz, all these three families of scholars, their mission is to support the regime. And this is the Saudi way how Islam should be. In Turkey, which is the Muslim Brotherhood version of Islam, Islam is actually a rebellious element against the government. It is like this in Egypt, it's like this in Jordan, in Syria as it was. And all the derivatives of the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, HTS, all these organizations are designed to undermine the regime. Look what they did to Assad, look what they did in Lebanon, what they did, of course, Lebanon is the Shia side, what they did in Turkey, they kick out the former regime of the secular sect of, or secular parties of Turkey, how they behave in Tunisia, and in Israel as well. We have Hamas and we have the Muslim Brotherhood here in Israel, who are all against the system. And this is the Muslim Brotherhood kind of thinking. By the way, they are against the system in the United States as well. They are against the system in Europe. And wherever they go, the Muslim Brotherhood are against the system. By definition, this is the genes. And this is why you cannot make any bridge between Islam, which serves the system, in Saudi Arabia, and Islam, which is against the system, as it is in Turkey, the implementation of this Islam. And this is why these differences between Muslim Brotherhood and Saudi Arabia, to a degree that Saudi Arabia supported Sisi in Egypt in 2013 when he kicked out Morsi, the Muslim Brotherhood president of Egypt, who was in office for 1 year. Okay? The Saudis supported Sisi, the secular, to be a threat of the Muslim Brotherhood president Morsi in 2013. To that degree, the hatred between the Saudis and the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's why Saudi Arabia never supported Hamas. Never supported Hamas in the war against us.
I'm gonna have to cut us off here because I have a hard stop. But let's just get your quick 1 or 2 sentence response to this. Despite this enmity or competition, however you want to describe it, between Riyadh and Ankara, that doesn't translate into any kind of alignment among the Saudis and the Israelis to balance the Turks, or among the Turks and the Israelis to balance the Saudis. The Israelis remain outside of the system. Is that correct?
We try not to get between Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Yet, don't forget, the Saudis, means the Saudi family, occupied Mecca and Medina from the Sharif Hussein 100 years ago, who was the master or the custodian of Mecca and Medina under the Ottoman Empire. Means that the Saudi family, which is not from the Hijaz, they are not from Mecca and Medina, they are from Riyadh, from the Najd Heights. They occupied Mecca and Medina, and the king has an epithet, the custodian of the 2 holy places. And this actually aggravates the Turks until this very day, because the Turks were in Mecca and Medina beforehand. And they kicked out the Sharif Hussein, which the Turks nominated. So memories, history, religion play very important game here in the Middle East. Unfortunately, Westerners are not aware of the magnitude of these elements in Middle Eastern today's policies. But I always hope that people in America, in Europe, will study Arabic and will start to read the Islamic sources and Arab sources by themselves without translation. I have this hope. I'm still naive because, unfortunately,
I love my people, but deep scholarship on the Middle East is not one of their defining characteristics. I'm afraid I have to cut you off. I could keep going on this with you for hours on this. With your permission, we'll have you back, and we thank you tremendously for filling in for Gadi Taub.
Thank you so much. But remember one thing. In the Middle East, peace is given to the invincible only.
Okay, that's a good way to end. So I wish you a lot of invincibility, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See you.
All right, friends, Yishai Fleisher here on a canoe in Oklahoma, thinking about the Holy Land. I hope you enjoyed that very important presentation about alternatives that can be achieved. We can break out of calcified thinking and get out of the two-state solution thinking and into a future that will yield peace and prosperity for our region. Now, first thing, check out our friends at the Israel Update. And if you love what we put out here, don't forget to support us by liking, subscribing, commenting, becoming a member, and even checking out our YouTube store or going to 2 support websites. One is buymeacoffee.com/Yishai, and the other one is fightforisrael.org, fightforisrael.org. I'm blessing you from Oklahoma and thinking about the good land, the land of Israel and the Abrahamic region. God bless you wherever you are, and shalom.